everybody? It's really good to see you guys, man. We're going to talk today about something that I think will help us all as we leave here today, which I try to do every week, but, you know, it's take it or leave it a lot of times. I want to know how many of you guys are here? All right, just checking, because, you know, today what I want to talk to you about is being here and being here. That's okay. I think so many times in our lives, like, we are here, but not really here. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of you guys that are here and not really here. Like, most of the time. But I'll tell you where I get this little nagging in my ear, and you would think that would be God, but it's not. She's shorter than God. And it's always about, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to talk about? What are you going to talk about? And so I'm just going to use her to talk about today. That's all right. We went on vacation this week for spring break, and we went to Galveston. We had a lot of fun. But early on in the trip, somebody got in trouble and got grounded. And it wasn't me. I did the grounded. What happened was Facebook, y'all heard of that? Like, Facebook stepped into my vacation, and what happens on Facebook is people are crazy, and they don't take their crazy pills all the time, and so sometimes it comes out, and I understand, you know, we all got our hang-ups. But sometimes people talk about the church. I don't know if y'all noticed, but, you know, people badmouth the church. And sometimes when that's part of your life, you get a little, you know, I mean, you get that hair on your back stands up. Not that you would ever want to kill anybody. Nobody wants to do that ever. But if you have other emotions that come up that you have to deal with, you know. And so it started, there was these bad things that came out in our vacation. And so my wife can't just let it go. And so she got grounded from Facebook for our whole vacation. And I found out that somebody else was on vacation with her. I won't name names, but it was somebody that looked just like Brandis. And she emailed her the stuff on Facebook. Texted her the stuff on Facebook, and I'm like, that's cheating. You're grounded too. She came real close to losing her phone on vacation. So I had no control. It was like a total out of control thing. But what I started realizing as it went, we would go eat somewhere, man, and like, there would be, I think there were 7 of us with the kids and everything, and like, there were 6 phones out. And I was like, what the heck's going on here, man? Which, that was my moment of peace, so I didn't argue too much. That was my vacation from the vacation. No, it was like, we're in the middle of vacation, and you've probably done this. You're in the middle of a great meal or in a beautiful place, and instead of being in the beautiful place, you're texting or Facebooking or twitting about, you tweet, you're tweeting, or MySpacing. Anybody still MySpacing? You show your age, man. Some of you are still chiseling on tablets about your adventures. No, I had a typewriter out, and I was typing about my adventure. Yeah, with correction tape. Backspace, backspace. But it's so many times I see this in life, like we are where we're at, but instead of just being where we're at, we have to broadcast where we're at and what we're doing. And like, especially my daughter's generation, they have to put everything out. It's like everybody needs to know. I just said the funniest thing. You know, it's like, oh man, it's crazy. I don't know. I'm glad that my life wasn't broadcast. I'm really glad. I mean, really glad. My parents are really glad. Yeah. But this is kind of the world we live in. And I wonder sometimes if it's adding to life or taking away from it. You know what I mean? Like, when in our lives do we engage? When in our lives do we become fully present? Can we say all the time that I'm here and I'm here? And I think that's really where the speed of life and the abilities to communicate on a broad spectrum, there's got to be a balance in there. We've got to find that time of missing something because we're somewhere else. And I know I'm not saying that it's all bad, like it's a bad thing, but like I think it's not the best we can do. And I want the best out of life. Don't you want more? Don't you want the most you can possibly have out of this life? And I think that the artificial friendships, and let's be honest, none of you guys have 1,000 friends. I know you. Like, if 1,000 people knew you, they wouldn't be on your friend list. Like, no. It's like, we don't have 1,000 friends. I mean, I might know 1,000 people, but I can't remember their names. And so there's no way that's possible. And so we've got this artificial life that's kind of going on outside of our real life. And I think that it's taking away from us. But then even more than that, it's not just social media. I'm not just harping on social media. It's like, man, is there not a million things going on? Like, we've got stress and worry and everybody's on us. I mean, some of us and a lot of us are still dealing with the past. Like, there's things that we went through in our lives that hurt us, and it hurt us bad, and like, we're still angry and we're still bitter and we're still holding on to all of those things, and we've had losses, so we're still holding on to those hurts, and we may have had bad relationships, and we're still holding on to those things, and maybe God let us down and we're still like holding on to that, like you know, we're still blaming God or holding on to that thing that happened to us. And then for others, it's like we shift into this, I've got to take care of the future. You're like type A control freaks. You're like, now I got to have the future set up. You know, this is not part of my plan or whatever. And so we go into this whole thing of stress and worry on we got to take care of these things, or what if this or what if that, or you know, we're worried about government, and we're worried about our jobs, and we're worried about our families, and we're worried about all these things. So we're always looking for the future, and it may not even be that far in the future. Like, maybe you spend all day every day making lists for tomorrow. Like your whole thing is structure and organization. Like, you're so organized you can't be present now because of you got to get this and this and this on your list. Like, you're sitting there right now and you're here in church, but you're making your grocery list that you have to go to Walmart tomorrow or whatever. And so you say, well, I'm a multitasker, but let's be honest, nobody's a multitasker. You know the human brain is incapable of doing two things simultaneously and fully committing to both of them? We can't do it. Now, a lot of you guys are like, no, it's a lie. That's a lie. That's just not true. That may be true for everybody else, but that is definitely not true for me. Like, I can multitask. I passed a person on the interstate the other day, and I swear they were typing on their computer, reading a book, driving, watching TV, texting, twitting. You know, it's like nowadays cars, cars have been programmed to multitask. Like, you can do everything your iPhone will do in your car. And I thought the whole point was driving. Like, I mean, call me crazy. But why waste time driving when you can take care of all the other things? This was my wife's philosophy about driving. Why just drive when you can be knocking stuff out on your list? And so what happens, and guys, if we really think about ourselves, and hopefully you'll take some inventory today, but if we really think about ourselves, how often are we fully present? How often are we really fully present? How many conversations do you get in every day where you're staring at the person and you have no idea what they said? And you say, yeah, man, I heard that. You say that all the time, like, I heard that. You didn't. I used to tell Justice, man, what'd I say? I'd make her repeat what I said because I know she's like, yeah, Dad, yeah, Dad. And I hear her phone. She can tweet like 90 words a minute, and I'm like, I couldn't type that on a big keyboard. You know? I mean, they're just unbelievably fast thumbers. It's crazy. But we've got to learn to be engaged. And last night, so occasionally I go up to Dallas to church on Saturday night because I need to not be on. Like, you know, I just need to go. And so we went, and last night they were talking, I don't even know what they were talking about. I wasn't really paying attention. I was doing something else. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, because like you guys are like, that's what I do here. But somewhere in the middle of some singing, they were talking about being present and engaging God. And I thought, man, if we're like that with people standing face to face with us, then do we ever really engage God? Like, when do we just say, enough is enough, and I want to spend this time being right here? Like, I want to hear what you have to say as we're spending time with God. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to be driving. I don't want to be taking a shower. Like, we fit God in and are like, well, this says I got to brush my teeth for 2 minutes, and what else can you really do when you're brushing your teeth? So you pray. Like, I mean, that's like prayer time. It's a great time. You know, especially now you got an electric toothbrush. You don't even have to move. Like, what are you doing? Brushing my teeth. Like, you don't even have to work. No workout at all. We've got down to where we can be complete sloths and slugs. We don't even have to move to brush our teeth. That's a whole different thing, though. So, do we engage with God even? And I know for me, it's hard. It's hard to stop. Have you noticed? Has any of you guys tried to just stop? You know what I found in my life? The people around you don't like that. Nobody likes when you stop. Like, you annoy people when you stop. when you get off of Facebook, when you don't answer the text immediately, when you don't show up or say yes or do this thing in this minute when they think you should. And it's us fitting ourselves into everybody else's schedule and like, you know, trying to keep up. Like my wife runs on like 1,000 miles an hour and my kids run on like 600 and I run, and I'm like trying to be the buffer in between everybody, and sometimes I like to run like on 5. And that's like, my speed is like 5. I'm not a planner and organizer. I'm really slothful. Like I feel like I tell them this all the time, you gotta let life come to you. You don't have to catch up with it. You just gotta let it come to you. Well, not everybody likes that. And so we find ourselves being, if not running that pace, definitely getting swept up in that pace, right? And we have to stop. I mean, you have to, if you want everything that life has, you have to stop that. We have to quit that. Jesus was teaching in Luke chapter 12, and in Luke chapter 12, he, in verse, I think it's like 13, he says this, the Bible tells us this in Luke 12:13. It says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brothers to divide their inheritance with me." But he said to him, and I love this because this is hippie Jesus. Y'all didn't know Jesus was like hippie cool dude. Like Jesus, I think, let life come to him. Because he says, man, but look. He said, man, who made me your judge or arbitrator over you? Man. Like y'all never read it like that. Y'all thought that Jesus was all thus and thou-y. This is the hippie, man. Long hair, dress, flip-flops. Man. He was. Seen the movies. And he said to him, and this is a hippie thing to say, he says, take care and be on guard against all covetousness, for one's life doesn't consist, like, can you hear this hippie Jesus? Like, life doesn't consist of things, man. It's not about abundance of possessions, man. Not like, this is Jesus. And we think, no, man, that's some 60s dude in California, right? But that was Jesus. I mean, it's Jesus. Look, does he not say that? Y'all think I'm making this stuff up? It's right in the Bible. You got to read your Bibles. It's awesome book. Especially if you do the voices. Like, you can't just read your Bible in all proper. You got to, like, make the voices because it'd be boring. And then he tells them a story, and Jesus was a great storyteller, man, because, like, I think this is the laid-back, hippie dress, long hair, beard, flip-flop life. I think you have to tell stories. And so he says, and he told them a parable saying, he said, the land of a rich man produced plentiful, and he thought to himself, what shall I do, for I have nowhere to store all my crops? Like, anybody else have this problem? I mean, can we relate? Like, we say rich man and we think of other people, right? Because we don't see ourselves as rich. But like, I went to El Salvador once. I'll tell you, we're pretty well off. Like, you been down to Mexico? We're doing all right. Like, and so I know, and here's how I know. Because I have more stuff than I have space to put my stuff. And so I have sales to sell my stuff so I can put more stuff in that space. Right? So we buy high, sell cheap, and buy more. It's a great economy. So he's like, we could relate to this wealthy guy because we have stuff and we don't have enough room for our stuff. And he says, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store my grain and goods. And then I'll say to my soul, I love it. Dude, I'm getting this guy, he's standing there by himself. So I'll say to my soul. And everybody around him was like, is this dude on Bluetooth? I mean, because you see those guys walking around in the mall and they're like talking and you're. And then they shake at you like you're stupid. When you answer them, and they're like, you're a freak. No, it's not. I come close to getting in some fights too. Thank God I did that message on patience though, because it saved me. Saved my whole vacation squad from getting in a brawl. So he says, soul, you have ample goods laid up now for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. He's talking to himself like, now you got it made. You're so cool. And he's like, and in our day, we would be like, man, this house is just entirely too small. Right? Because we would never think that we had too much stuff or too many kids. Let's get rid of some kids. So what do? We build bigger houses so we have more stuff. And then you say to yourself, soul. You call yourself soul because you can't remember your name, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, soul, you have plenty of room now. Now you can eat, drink, and be merry. Now, and listen, this is what it is. It's like now you can be fully present. And Jesus throws the curveball at him. Man. He says, but God says to him, fool, man. This night your soul is required of you. And the things that you have prepared, all will they be, or whose will they be? I was like, I can't even see my page. Whose will they be? Like, who's all this stuff going to belong to now? So is the one who lays up treasures for himself and is not rich toward God. These are people who never are fully engaged with God and with God's creation. And when we look at being one with God or being in the presence of God, it has more to do with being there than doing. Like, we don't get that. We live in a world of rules, and we live in a world where we're on a stage. Twitter is a stage that I have to perform on all the time. Social media is a stage where my post has to be cooler than your post. Like, our lives are a competition, and we're either winning or we're losing, and it's measured by our success or by our stuff or by the size of our barns that we're building, or by our power, or by how many people know me, or by, like, if you have 10,000 followers on Twitter, or by who's following you. We have all of these things, and so life becomes a stage, and it's all about a performance, and we never really get to stop performing. We never get to stop. So it starts to push us, and the whole thing is pushing us, and we're never engaged. We're never present. If we're never present, we're missing out on God and His kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, but we're too busy to engage in it. God is among us, upon us. He's within us. Jesus died so we can be made right with God. Do you understand that He loves us? Like, He's never going to leave us. Like, He's always present. He is always present. And He is always engaged. Not a little, but 100% engaged. And what are we doing? And so we're not engaged. And so we're missing out on all of this. And then, Jesus turns in verse 22 and He says to His disciples, therefore I tell you Do not be anxious about your life, what you'll eat or about your body or what you'll put on, like your clothes. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about, how fat you are, how skinny you are. I don't know, maybe you worry about other things, with your body. It's like, why do I look like a pear? Yeah. Somebody said I'm out of shape. I said I'm a perfect round. That's a shape. So how can you be out of shape? Actually, you are more in shape because a line's not a shape. Like if you're a stick figure, you have no shape. Skinny people. Anyway, get this though. This word, he says, I tell you not to be anxious. So what's Jesus really saying to him? Don't be anxious. We would say, don't be worried. The word there is let me see if I can pronounce it right. Merimano. And what that word literally actually means is drawn in different directions or divided into parts. Like he tells them, after telling them this parable, he says, don't be drawn into different directions. And that's not like don't be drawn in this path and that path, but don't be drawn in 2 or 3 or 4 directions at once. Don't be divided into parts. Your life cannot be subdivided. You can't. What he's saying is you cannot multitask. You can't do it. He says, that's not, God, Jesus is teaching us that it is not a better way to live, living in multi-directions, being divided, living in a multi-situation. That's not a better way to live. The better way to live is to be fully present, to engage, to be wherever you're at, whenever you're there. And if you don't like where you're at, then go somewhere else and be fully present there. Like, I think it's so important that we get this, because if we could streamline our lives, do you know how much more life you can really have? I mean, I think Jesus wants us to engage. He wants us to have the most out of life, right? And to have the most out of life, we have to be present. When you're at work. Be fully present. When you're with your friends, be with your friends. Be fully present. The little kids were with us on vacation, and they were all like, I want the phone, and I want the phone, and it's like, I'm like, hey, just talk to each other. Like, you're sitting at the same table, and if they're not together, it's like, Dad, can Gracie come over? Dad, can we go see? I'm like, and then when they get together, I'm like, hey, just be together. This is what you want when you're not together. Why do we live always wanting where we're not? I think that's why Facebook was invented. Because then I don't have to be where I am, I can be somewhere else. Right? But that's a fantasy, it's not real. You get that? Like, y'all know that everything on Facebook's a lie. It's not real. People are making that stuff up. I take those pictures offline. Google image, and I just get the best ones and say, oh, enjoying the scenery. And everybody's like, oh, I wish I was there. I wish you were too. We don't know. Not everybody got that chance. Like, it's a fantasy though. Where are we struggling in our life? And I guarantee if you find those relationships that you're struggling with, it's because we're not engaged. We're not there. Like we're spending time together, but we're not really there. When was the last time When was the last time you were with your significant other people, whether it's your friends or your kids or your wife or whatever? When was the last time that you were there and both of you at the same time were fully engaged? I'm telling you, man, those times are like a lot of you are like, I see wheels spinning right now because it's not immediately like you don't know immediately the answer to that question because like most of us, we barely remember this morning. So like we're trying to file system back to yesterday and it's like, I know it happens to me too. But was it yesterday or was it last week? Was it a month ago? Was it a year ago? Me and Celia actually engaged, like, talk to each other. And I don't even know who you are. Who's this woman? And she is hot. That's what I was thinking. I got a lot of making up to do. We spent a week together. I got a lot of making up to do. Do you know your kids? Maybe this is a problem. Like maybe, just maybe, this is a huge issue. Like the school's calling home and telling you things that they know your kid better than you because at school they don't have their phone out. You know? What do you know? I mean, what do you really know about God? I'm shocked at how little people know about God. I mean, it's like, oh, I heard this. No, I mean, like, I heard a lot about you too. You want me to go off of that? I mean, come on. Like, you probably heard about me, right? But you'd like me if you got to know me. Promise. Tell them. Yeah. What do you know about him? How can you say you love somebody if you're never present with them? Wouldn't like the epitome of love being fully present and engaged when I'm in your presence? And so I can say I love my wife or I love my kids or I love my family or I love my friends or I'm a loving person. But am I if I'm never engaged? Can I say I love God if I'm never really engaged? Like I'm never really fully present? And a lot of us are like, a lot of you guys' anxiety levels going through the roof right now because you're freaking out. You're stressing on how you're going to fit this in. Like, do you realize, stop, breathe. You don't have to stress. You don't have to fit this in. This is who you are. You don't have to fit God in. He's present. And when we are present, fully present with Him, it's not being fit in because it's where I'm at when I'm there. Like, where you're at when you're there is where you're supposed to be. It's not that hard. How do I become fully present? Just be where you're at. Like, I know, man, like you're like blowing your mind right now. Man, it's heavy, man. Like you're like, he's talking deep, man. I'm like, no, just be where you're at. And it sounds like it's so simple, but I'm telling you, when we step out those doors, it's not going to be as simple as I'm making it sound right now. And you know that, right? Because the minute you step out of here, you're fixing to get pulled every direction. You can't change your past. You can't. Anybody still dealing with consequences of poor decisions in the past? Yeah. those things just keep coming, right? I can't change that, but it don't have to bother me either because I can be right here, right now. I can understand that all of that made me who I am right now, and hopefully I'm wise enough to learn from all of those mistakes and not engage those right here, right now where I'm at. But I can't change them. They're gone. Tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen, but I would assume chaos. That's always best to assume, like chaos. If you're sitting there right now going, tomorrow's going to be a day of absolute peace, good luck. Come to my house. Assume chaos. Expect the worst. No, don't be a pessimist. Actually, plan. Don't make stupid decisions because tomorrow you're going to wake up and go, man, somebody feed me. I wish I'd have thought of it. We need to think about our future, but we can't be in the future yet. And if we do not engage our presence, our future is going to be altered greatly. I will guarantee you, if you do not engage your wife and your kids, your future is not going to look like you think it's going to look. Because your relationships with your wife, your kids, your friends is not going to be like it is now. It's going to be much, much worse. Chances are they won't be part of that future. And you spend all of that time preparing for something that can never be because you did not engage right here, right now. When you go to work, be at work. When you come home, don't be at work. Does that make sense? When you go to work, go to work. Be at work. Work hard. Be all in. But when you come home, be home and be all in. When you come to church, be at church and be all in. When you meet with God and be all in. If we will learn to engage and be fully present in our lives, man, our lives will change. My goal as a human being, this is my goal, my personal goal, and hopefully some of you guys will embrace this after today, but my personal goal as a man is to live every minute of my life fully engaged with where I'm at that moment. I'm not going to be reckless and irresponsible about the future, but I want to be fully present right here, right now. I don't want to miss a thing. It could end tomorrow. Me, the ones I love, it could end tomorrow. We're not guaranteed of a future. I can't change the past. So what I have is what I have right here, right now, and I want all of it. And if we live that way, man, we will not have regrets. And what else can you ask for? A life without regrets. We'll actually know and engage and understand God. Know and understand and engage His kingdom and His way of being. Man, what a way to live. And that's how I want to live, and that's my goal, and I hope that some of you will start thinking along those terms about engaging now. You know what? It's okay to be on Facebook. It's okay to twit. Fine. But don't let it take you away from what's right in front of you. Take those meals and make them events. Take those conversations while your kids will talk to you. Because they won't always. But while they will, make it an event. Man, engage. Ella says some crazy things when you actually sit down and engage her. When you're just like doing something else and she's, and you're like, I don't know, in one ear. But when you engage her, she's a loon, man. Like, she's crazy. It must come from her grandparents. On both sides. But be don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it, and I don't want you to miss it either. You guys stand up with me. I'm going to pray for you.